Welcome everyone to a new gameplay series on Rule the Waves. In this series, our 8th, I believe, we are going to be playing as the United States of America. So the USN, the United States Navy, is going to be extremely strong. As far as the nations you can play as go, this one might be the easiest. I'd say that maybe with the exception of playing as Germany with the game naval budget, playing as the United States is probably the second easiest, no matter which budget you choose. They're both pretty high. As we already discovered firsthand, or if for those of you who are already familiar with the series, I did play as the Royal Navy. Maybe that was 2 playthroughs ago, or 2 series ago. And even though you have a pretty high budget, it's quite challenging because you have so many ships stuck on foreign stations. So anyways, this is going to be, I think, a pretty fun playthrough, an easy breezy time. Well, I say that now, and then we'll end up losing every battle or something. So let's talk about the strengths of the United States. They have, let's first think about general games. If you're playing any kind of 4X game, or if you're playing, your Paradox interactive games, what are the 2 things you're usually looking to do? Get ahead in economy and get ahead in research. Well, guess what? The U.S. has both of those categories, both of those bonuses built into its nation. Rapid economic growth. In fact, it usually surpasses Great Britain in terms of naval budget by the end of the game. And on top of that, it's also a technology leader, which means it gets a small bonus to research. So those are both extremely beneficial things. I would say that if you compare the US and the UK, efficient shipbuilding industry is good, so they do get their ships out a little bit faster. The British, I didn't check this before I started doing this series of recordings, this recording itself, but I believe that the U.S. had a more or less an HMS Dreadnought. So the first Dreadnought, as we all recognize, was the HMS Dreadnought. That's where the Dreadnought class comes from. The first one that really just decided to put multiple guns along the center line, or the first of that type of design. But I think the Americans also already had that design, and they were, I believe, even building one of those ships, or a couple of them even. I can't remember, so I probably should have looked this up before recording. Anyway, the point I'm trying to get to here is the British really did crank out ships a lot faster, I think, than the Americans. So maybe that's where their hidden flaws comes from. So if you were to think about this from a game perspective again, I'm not sure if it's better to play as the British or American from a bonus standpoint, especially because research advantage in ship design makes the British slightly better at research. The 2 individual techs, now note, just in case you don't know, research advantage gives you research bonus to all the techs in that category. And these are just 2 techs in a particular category, usually out of 14 or 15 or so. So this is not nearly as good as getting an entire research advantage, but these 2 bonus techs happen to be some of the more important ones. One of the common sayings about this game is it's fun to build the ships because they're obsolete by the time they're finished. But that's not exactly true. You have a few key techs like all or nothing armor, oil firing, 4 centerline turrets. For destroyers, getting stuff like double or triple torpedo tube launchers. There are a few technologies which do make pretty big shockwaves in your ship design scheme, but overall I would say that a lot of the things you get incrementally, they don't make or break your ship design. So these are 2 kind of important ones. Definitely the biggest one to me is all or nothing armor. So, I don't know. At least those are really nice ones to have, especially if you can get them as early as like 1905. I've gotten one of these by 1905 before, which is pretty fantastic. Before I think I even had 4 centerline turrets, so I couldn't even do anything with it. But in that case, you can just go to an HMS Dreadnought thing, because you usually get the rear superimposed first. And then we can really do the HMS Dreadnought, but with the rear one superimposed, or super firing, as sometimes it's better known as. Okay, so anyways, that's our advantages as the US. Let's not take too long in this recording. Let's try to jump into the meat of it. So I'm really excited about this one because of the ease of playing. I did choose the US, right? Yeah, good. Because of the ease of playing, we're going to try to adopt a few extra ships. Maybe a few, I'm tentative about this, but maybe a few designs that are user suggested. Now, for the most of you, that's not going to mean anything because just a few of the captain supporters, the higher tier, might have access to that. Of course, in the comments, as happens every time, we'll still be discussing all the little nuances of ship design. And if you're wondering what this background is for, this is because I don't have a second monitor operational right now. One day, God willing, but for now, I'm actually using this template to kind of let me know where more or less the ship window should go. I mean, the game window should go. Because again, this is one of those games that does not... Already we were transferring between... I think that's already been 3 different windows, surprisingly. So unless you're doing capture monitor, it won't properly capture the recording, the game. Okay, so initial ships. Let's start with our battleships. I also, please say I did. Good. So I pulled up this. I have my ship names. I will be posting a link so that you can submit your ship names. For those of you who are on my Discord, you already had access to it. And these are mostly supporter names. I think only one of these is not a supporter name. So you're not out of the runnings yet. There's only like 3 or 4 entries on the normal ship. For those of you wondering what I'm talking about with supporters or not, I have a Patreon. I keep talking about that I'll probably be canceling it really soon, but until I get around to actually doing that, or whether, I mean, maybe I'll just not end up doing that. Who knows? Minnesota. So this is going to be the Minnesota class. Oh, and one of the things I want to talk about with ship names, I always mention this. Probably you're familiar with this already. I've already asked 2 or 3 people to change names because it wasn't American enough. These are wonderful examples. The Caleb is probably the worst example of something, which is, I mean, if we don't end up naming something the Caleb, I might go back to this person and ask them to rename this. It's not, I could see an American ship being called the Caleb, but we have other fantastic, like the Minnesota, the Congress, the O'Bannon, Grand Rapids, Galveston Sandwich. I mean, the Sandwich also not a good example, not as good of an example, but for destroyers, we don't really care as much. So, in order to make sure our ships are in peak fighting condition, we're going to go to Great Britain to build these. And legacy ship-wise, it doesn't usually matter. I already kind of have an idea of what well, let's just auto-generate this first. It'll give us a new name. We'll go back to Minnesota, which is, like I said, a fantastic name. Really, people have done a great job naming. In fact, I'm wondering, okay, they automatically put Great Britain here. Because 14,700, that's actually over what the Americans can build. We start with only a dock size of 14,000, so that'll be one of the things that I have to push on until we can get at least on par with the British. Now, belt armor is one thing I'm going to stress for our early dreadnoughts, because it is one thing that it's not like armor scales into the late game. It just becomes worse for everyone, and it becomes lighter certainly for the ships in the end game. But even our end game belt ships, like our end game dreadnoughts, will be like 12 inches of belt. So getting it at 11, which obviously our guns are going to improve much more than our armor is. So if you think about the scaling in the game and armor being, a relatively flat progression, besides the weight reduction, but it's really worth it to get pretty good armor on your ships in the beginning, because that's something which doesn't advance too much as the game goes on. So we're going to shoot for 11 all along, turret top 2.5, and take down secondaries to 2. This is standard operating procedure for any of my ships. Put this up to like 130, take that. I want to get up to 9. I might go to turrets as well, because basically these battleships, the pre-war or pre-dreadnought battleships, either one, both are appropriate descriptions in my opinion. So these ships usually end up being relegated to secondary roles towards the end of the game. But one thing that they are still good at is firing their secondary weapons. The secondary weapons for this at 6 inches is going to be the same, especially because we have 20 of them per side, or 20 of them, so 10 per side. It's going to be the same number as guns per side as my endgame dreadnoughts, which will also usually have 20. Maybe, if I go insane, you can't go higher than 24. So the most you can have is 12 guns per side. Well, I already have 10. Which means that these are very good support battleships, which is kind of a weird thing to say. And I don't think I've even really got an opportunity to utilize this strategy. But in theory, I like to have the secondaries just because then these can take out destroyers, light cruisers, even though they only have 2 main guns, so they're not very good at equivalent size ships, so like battleships. Even armored cruisers can pose a slight difficulty for them to sink, at least quickly. It's not that they're threatened, not really threatened by armored cruisers, but just being able to sink them quickly is difficult. Okay, so this is a kind of a strange situation for me. We've actually gotten everything that I want to get out of this. I guess let's do an experiment with tertiaries. I have 86. How many can I get? That's certainly not a lot. I could get more if okay, so there's 2 options here. I can lower my belt extended, or I could raise my belt extended. This seems like the most natural course, honestly. Doing something like this. This is a fantastic fighting ship. Other nations will definitely fear the Minnesota. Now, 130 rounds, this is high intentionally because we will be dropping this when we need new fire control. In fact, I'm going to take the conning tower in like a complete reversal of my 2 years ago strategy. When I first started playing, I wanted my conning tower really high. And now I've realized that conning tower hits are usually, bridge hits to the superstructure can either be superstructure itself, the tall stacks, can be the conning tower, or it could be the bridge. Actually, a hit on the conning tower / bridge, like that area, I think it rolls a dice and random number, basically, and 50% of the hits in that area just go right through the bridge, which means it's like the glass, so it ignores conning tower armor. The other hits on the conning tower do take advantage of the conning tower armor, but I usually find if 10 is not enough, these hits are few and far between already, so that's kind of I guess that's what I would say. The conning tower hits are few and far between. I don't think superstructure has the same armor anyway. I'm not sure. I wish I knew. So it's funny that I'm going up in belt extended but down in conning tower. 3 is still pretty good. Okay, maybe we'll go 10.5. This gives us a little bit of wiggle room. I think central firing should be no problem. We'll be able to keep our rounds per gun. But as soon as we go to director, I think we'll have to drop this down to 120 or so. And we may not even go beyond, we may not even go to improved director with these ships, just because they'll start to be at the end of their lifespan by then. We might start scrapping them. I do want to try to cycle a lot of ships, just because we usually have very long ship name lists, like hundreds of people submitting names. And in order to get through those, I had a hard time as Italy. The economy was not so forgiving in terms of getting a lot of ships out there. But as the US, that's one thing, thankfully, we should have enough budget to build a ship for everyone. Okay, I think that I'm done here. Let me just make sure I'm not doing anything stupid. Sloped armor, normal. 16,000, Great Britain. And I can save, I believe after my first retrofit, I can save this, and as long as I have 16,000 dock by then, which I'm sure I will, I can actually change that back to being built in the United States. So, looks good to me. Looks good. Actually, I'm going to increase this. Oh, I can't. Okay, alright then. It is completely done. Save and go. And we will build the first one, the Minnesota. We're going to get some more, but it only makes sense to see how much budget we have remaining. So before we do that, let's jump to our... Yeah, go to CA. That's what I want. And this one's going to be the O'Bannon. The O'Bannon, which I guess has something to do with the shores of Tripoli. Something like this. Somebody can correct me in the comments. But great name as well. I can definitely imagine No abandoned class. Now, a speed of 18, not going to be appropriate for an armored cruiser. I usually keep these a little bit slower, so 22 instead of 23, with the hope that they just outgun anything that they can't outrun. They'll be able to outrun every battleship, and hopefully they'll be able to outgun every other armored cruiser. They should probably even match the speed of those. So this is going to be a very pricey ship. My goal, though, is... I'm going to say that that's actually okay, because I still want these to win in one-on-one engagements. So we'll take the conning tower way down. Basically, these are all... It didn't auto-generate a realistic... This is also pretty terrible, but it's something else. So, abandon before I forget. Okay, low freeboard, no. Speed 22. At least it gave us something a little bit more like an armored cruiser. Let's go up to 10. I do like this. So the United States starts with all quality 0 until 9. Gets quality 0 back for 10, and then -1 for the other 2. So we'll take advantage of the 10-inch guns. We'll make this a very strong ship. Still want plenty of rounds for that thing. We'll also try to get as many secondary guns as we can. We'll probably keep these in casemate just to save a little space. Damn it, I don't actually remember. I did 2 torpedo tubes in the battleship. That's actually probably just about right. I would even consider, since we'll be playing in captain's mode, so I should mention that, yes, we will be playing in captain's mode. I don't think it's possible to return to playing in any other mode once you've dabbled in captain's mode. It's just so wonderful to be able to control your ships, to be able to launch torpedoes when it really seems like you should. So, anyway. How are we looking with this one? Not amazing. Our ability to keep this thing under ton. Okay, let's just go to 13,000. Let's go crazy with it. Let's go to 140. Can we get to 5.5? We can. That's amazing. I don't really want to go over 13,000. This is already going to be a very expensive ship. We have 8 guns per side. That's actually pretty good. We do have our 2 double 10-inch gun turrets. I probably could lower the turrets. There's only 2 turrets, so I usually lower these. Can that get us another one? Not yet. Basically, with only 2 turrets, the chance of a turret being hit is a little bit less. That's my rationale there. I guess we'll take the belt extended down to 2. This is still enough to prevent splinters, although we're getting into the area where our belt extended will be penetrated by light cruiser fire. I like to keep it higher to prevent that, but in this case I think it's better to get the extra secondary guns. In theory, those will be killing the light cruisers as fast as they're chewing through our belt extended. So we'll go with that, and because we still have a lot of space left over, actually this is kind of a good situation since, like, why don't I make this like conning tower, like who cares about that? Wait, am I able to get that back? Oh, okay, well, we'll do this then. Why not? We're given the opportunity. I can get that to 140. Wow, we can get it to 145. Now, I'm always nervous about this. Did it round? Is it going to give me a penalty? So just to be on the safe side, I'm going to leave it at 140. It's been asked before, so I'll mention it. There's no benefit to being underweight other than you do float slightly easier if you take a lot of damage. Your flotation hit points, basically your sinking happens a little bit slower if you were underweight, but otherwise it gives no benefit to your ship. It's just kind of staves off ultimate defeat for a little bit longer. Usually you should use those points basically to make your ship not get to the point of being hit to begin with, which is impossible, but you do your best. You do the best you can. All right, I like this ship a lot. Actually, here's where I would probably prefer to compromise if I'm going to do anything, is somehow get... How much would it cost for us to get 2... I'll do this on the light cruisers for sure. Maybe on the armored cruisers it's not necessary, but that doesn't seem impossible to get to. Well, okay, the guns aren't heavy enough. We're not going to get there, so I'll leave it at 1. We'll be happy that at least we can fire these ourselves, and everything's okay. Let's check, make sure I'm not missing anything obvious. Sometimes it happens. Could I get, how much is that? Oh, that's quite expensive. No, we'll leave it on casemates. So, these things with 10-inch guns, those fire fast enough that hopefully we won't have a problem bringing down light cruisers in any kind of one-on-one engagement. So we'll build one of those. And now, light cruisers. Light cruisers, even though they start with a different armor scheme, so you'd think that these have the worst scaling, the legacy light cruisers that we build first, I think they actually have the best scaling into the late game. So there's been several times, Grand Rapids, by the way, another great name. There's been on several occasions I've had these at the end of the game. Now, I think Frosty actually asked for a particular design, which I will attempt to honor here. We'll see if it's possible. Forward, aft, double turret. So yeah, I think it works, which is weird, but maybe some 3-inch secondaries to kill destroyers. So this is going to be kind of a hybrid light cruiser, armored cruiser, and I'm going to try it. I'm going to try it. So notice that the rate of fire penalty is only 10% for double turrets, or main turrets with less than 9 inches, which basically if they're double. Double turrets with less than 9 inches. The thing I don't know is if this penalty goes away once you research the tech. There's a tech for more reliable training gear and elevation gear for the double turrets or something. But does it apply retroactively to designs that you already had this penalty, or does it only apply to designs that you build from that point on? I don't know. So I do like the 3, 2, 6. Okay, this we don't need. We can have that at 4, 2, 2. This is fine to me. In fact, if we take the turrets up any higher, it's actually not going to work. And this is why I was talking about the protected cruiser armor. You have to use this in the very beginning. It's worse. This kind of sloped design is actually probably the worst possible against arcing shells. It's good if you're point blank and if they're firing directly at you and the shell is coming in almost horizontal, it's good. But when you start sloping, this ends up being like, you basically want shells to impact at an angle. And this means that they impact almost exactly perpendicular to the surface, which is bad. Let's try to get 23 out of this. I might not be able to. We'll do 6,000. So far, even right now, we can build this thing, which is really terrifying for me. I want more torpedo tubes, though. I want speed and I want torpedo tubes, and I'm willing to sacrifice a little bit in order to get it. Okay, this is looking pretty good. We only have 5 guns. Let's try to get 6 guns. How much is that going to take? Another... Oops. Okay, can we get 7? Well, this looks pretty good as is. 168. That's definitely more 8-inch guns than we need. We won't run out anytime soon. You know what? I think I like this. It's a pretty good ship. Medium, normal, cool, normal. What does the game think? It just has that same complaint. But I don't know. A 10% rate of fire penalty doesn't seem that bad in order to get 8-inch guns. So I could do one of these and we see how it goes. This will be like a test case. Obviously, my preference has always been to just load up with 6-inch guns. But yeah, this will be interesting. The one good thing about this is that when it is chase on or tail on with anybody, if it's just only able to use its front or its rear gun, the same situation for most light cruisers, they'll only be able to use one gun, but it'll be using 2. So that's the advantage. And maybe we'll have some fun trying to put it in situations where we can take advantage of that. So let's go ahead and just save it. It'll be an experimental design, which honestly, if you're going to do any kind of experimenting, it's the United States is the best nation to play as for that. So we'll build one. I did get 4. Good, good, good. These moments of doubt right after you click buy. Okay, for the destroyer, we did have this kind of silly name, Sandwich, but it's at the absolute limit of what I would allow for a name, and I'm only allowing it because of destroyers. So we're going to try to keep things pretty serious. I want people to, if they jump into the series halfway through, this is always what I say, I want them to be under the impression that all the names were generated by the game. If they see like flying monkey clown or something like that, they're gonna know that people were making up names, and it might ruin a little bit of the immersion. So we'll try to keep the names. Wow, let me auto-generate this. We'll try to keep the names realistic. All right, so speed. Let's take this short range because we're gonna need all the tonnage we can get. Okay, what is the deal with this? Heavy centerline will affect. Okay, I don't want cramped accommodation though. I will never do that. Okay, rate of fire penalty is minus 20%. That doesn't matter that much for our torpedoes though. This might be an effective design even as is because torpedoes, those don't fire any slower. It's just your main guns which will. I don't really care about my main guns. They're just 3-inch guns. They're barely going to do anything. This will make this essentially an only anti-capital ship. It'll make it impossible for it to have any success against destroyers. Now that can be obviously a double-edged sword if we go up against destroyers, if we get into one of those really ridiculous destroyer battles. Excuse me. Yeah, then obviously our destroyers. We had this one time, I think it was as Italy in the last series, where I had a bunch of destroyers go up against enemy destroyers, and we fared pretty poorly, I think. We lost 3-1. But then in the next battle, I think, or 2 battles later, we had our destroyers just slaughtering with torpedoes enemy capital ships, and we came out, tens of thousands of points ahead in the grand scheme. So people complain. There is definitely a contingent of people, and I don't blame them. Obviously it's great to have strong gunboat destroyers, and let me say that we'll probably build some in this series, because again we have access to larger funds. So especially if things go well in the beginning of the game and the budget scales better, if it snowballs higher for us, we'll be able to do more funky designs. So kind of that will be our spring, our restriction, is if we do so well, we'll start doing worse designs, and that'll make it so that the game doesn't get out of control. We still have some challenge, because then I'll have to make some funky designs work. Okay, so yeah, we need more rounds, definitely. 215, no sense in getting secondaries. I honestly, I don't mind this. The sandwich will be, it'll be eaten for, well, I was going to say breakfast, but it'll be eaten for lunch by almost any ship. But it has a chance getting some of those torpedoes off. 3 broadside is pretty darn strong. And even then it can turn and fire 1 more. So having that is pretty strong. Now I've also experimented. We could do the same design as this, but with 2 and 2, which will remove this middle line. Okay, so let's just save this real fast. Not go to the build cat, and then I can change it and I can cancel it if I don't like what I see. So let's just delete this, and this shouldn't change the weight. It didn't. Yeah, so this removes it. Is it worth it? It's a really good question. First of all, we have 6 tons left over, and that's kind of a lot to just let sit. This is still, in my opinion, perfectly acceptable. You fire 2 on one side, you rotate around, fire 2 on the other. And then we don't have the centerline fire. So let's do this because this will somewhat appease people who wanted to be able to shoot the guns. But I'm putting my foot down. Not that this is something I'm trying to fight people against. People really want this. I really think that we'll get a gunboat destroyer in, some with 4-inch guns, maybe even 5-inch guns, and multiple of them, maybe 4. Triangle configuration in the front, 1 in the rear, maybe superimposed. Who knows? We'll get them in there. We'll see how they could do. Especially if we can still get like 5 or 6 torpedoes on them. If I could get 2 triple torpedo mounts on a gunboat destroyer, that thing, it's a jack of all trades. Obviously, you could spend. That's probably missing out on speed if I do that, but so yeah, we still have this. How how far away are we from 28? Still pretty far away. How far away are we from medium? Same distance. From normal, same distance. It's hard. Wait, what about 4? We're closer to 4. But still, just seems impossible to get there. That's way too much ground to make up. What are we going to do? Take our rounds down to 1? 5 rounds per gun, you know? I mean, then we lose the advantage of getting better guns. Yeah, I think we're going to do this. We're going to stick with this. And that's going to be the sandwich. So we'll build one of those as well. Okay, last thing we need to build. Good old Minesweeper. And I can't remember, Neighbor's Dog or something was the... So it's going to be the same name. Okay, let's just make it the Kingfisher. This is a nice name. Take it down to 200. I think it can go to 17. 1, 1, 1. Wait, I thought this was... It doesn't really matter, does it? I thought this is what I always did. I'm forgetting. Oh God, it has secondaries. Okay, that's where the mistake was. So now we can put these at medium. Now medium's fine. Make their engines reliable because we have points to chew up anyway. There we go. 215. Can we give them 2 secondaries? No. Just wondering. And now Minesweepers cannot have torpedoes at all, I'm pretty sure. So there we have it. Really cheap Minesweeper. In fact, you don't really want to add too much more anyway, because the main thing about the Minesweepers is they should be really cheap. And as the saying goes, quantity is its own form of quality. So we'll save that. I'm not going to go to the design. I'm not going to build them yet. Just want to make sure I'm doing everything right. Does this change the money? No. No, not at all. Okay, very good. So why not do reliable then? Absolutely. Okay, let's do it. Let's build one of those as well. And now, how many points do we have left over? First of all, let's also build a dock size. We're going to want that. Tonnage on foreign stations is still negative 6,000. Okay, well, I think it's pretty easy. Southeast Asia is going to want a armored cruiser, so we'll build another armored cruiser. And this name will be... Oh. I know that there's a name I'm supposed to be giving to this one. I forgot what it is, though. I didn't write it down. So I'm going to just give it the Brooklyn. That won't be the actual name. That'll be temporary, and it'll be renamed next turn, or by next episode. So we have the Congress coming up, so let's build one of those. Sort by type, or let's sort by displacement, so the highest one's at the top. That'll be easiest. So this will be the Congress. Wonderful names. Most of these are really, really good. I mean, basically, the only exception is that sandwich, and then also the Caleb might need to be amended. So we're still doing pretty good. I mean, we have a lot of funds. So we're going to build a lot more battleships, I think. Now, what's the most that... If we go to next... 24. So we want to go down to 24 million. I didn't like min-max this. I probably should. Or it would be very normal for me to min-max this. I have 470. I have 2 armored cruisers. I'm going to want maybe at least one other light cruiser. So this is 323, right? So I should have 140 left after this. I do. We already have, I mean, this is already, I think, right now, before I build any other ships, more than my Italian fleet was for a long time. 8 battleships, I don't think we ever got there. I don't think we ever had 8 Well, I mean, let's see. We have 10 total capital ships. That might be more than we ever had as Italy. That may not be true. I think maybe it might have happened towards the end of the game. Actually, it might have been in the beginning of the game because although you get more money as the game goes on, the cost of the ships goes up probably even faster. So let's just get 2 more light cruisers. Let's get the, well, I don't know which one this will be, but let's get this one to Southeast Asia. And since we're only missing 6,000, 13,000 will certainly cover that bill. So now we can see we're all good. Can we automatically, instantly, I think we want to increase the, the value here. Base capacity of 100. 100 is pretty good. I think it only goes up by like 20 or so after this, but that's still, I think it'd be worth it. Southeast Asia, I plan to put a lot of stuff in Southeast Asia, but I have 100. Okay, so basically what I have right now is 127. So take away this one ship in gray, and all the rest of this is 127. That's a lot of tonnage, actually. Okay, let's hold off on building that up for now. I'll do it in the future. West Coast, what do we have? 550, 860. Okay, so those are all good. How's the Caribbean look? 490. Great. So we don't need any help on any of these places except for maybe Southeast Asia, and it's fine for now. Okay, good. So then what other ships do I want? We've got lots of battleships. So if you're, let's just basically, oh, we should move to the next step though. Let me build some more battleships. Maybe one more. Yes. We have 40, so I don't want to build another one. How much do these cost? I didn't check. 244 versus 240. So these are practically the same in terms of maintenance. In fact, they're practically the same in terms of cost. I should have built an armored cruiser there. Oh well. Made a mistake. So we'll get one of these, which will drop us down to 16 is a little bit lower than I want. So no, we won't get one of those. We'll just get a lot of minesweepers. This is kind of difficult. I mean, I guess I could get... No. We're just going to have to... We didn't manage this quite right. If I scrap them, do I get all my money back? Let's do the Kingfisher. How much? Let's find out how much they cost. These are 671. 671. 671 should was just above 41. I don't want to do it. I'm too nervous. It's not going to work. I have a feeling. So let's just bite the bullet. Get another one of these. And move to the next screen. It's always better to do more building on this screen though. Okay, now ships under construction, we build them at half price basically. This is why it's nice to do. I'm going to build no ships. No ships will be built. No battleships. Okay. Because you get them. I have to build them at... I have to build them in England, and that's the disadvantage. What if we go to war? These monthly build costs, by the way, completely incorrect. Ignore them entirely. So we're not getting these ships for 2.5 million. It's absolutely not true. I don't know if I should build any. What if I build 2 armored cruisers? I still have a good monthly balance, so we can try to build 2. I mean, we need a lot of light cruisers. What am I doing? 9 of them? Let's get down to 6 and see what kind of damage does that do. Yep, that's already what we can do. Okay, great. So that'll be what we do. We might as well build... Okay, what's the time frame on those being constructed? Wow, we got very unlucky, unfortunately, with the the Pittsburgh. She's 13, and we got unlucky, really unlucky with the Olympia. Jeez, holy cow. It's the same build time as the armored cruisers. But that's okay. It's random. I guess they take the average and then they roll the dice a little bit, give you a faster build time. 8's probably faster. Maybe 11 is 10 or 11's average, and then 13 is obviously above. So that's it, and we'll have to build up minesweepers. We can do that closer to our first war, so I think we're okay with that. It still says we don't have enough foreign tonnage, but we do. Okay, good. So with that, we can actually begin the game. Yes. I may have missed something, but I don't think so. Gosh, I hope not. Anyways, I'm going to call this first episode to a close. Nice long introduction. So thanks for watching. I will have the ship name, the ship list form, as a link in the in the video description. I'll also post it in a comment that I'll pin. So just look right below the video. And I've changed it so that you can only have one ship type, one ship designation selected at a time, but you can come back and change it anytime. So this just makes it easier, so I can just sort by designation and find one. What it means is it also you pick exactly the ship type you want. You don't have, it's not a, if you select dreadnought, battlecruiser, you're not sure. Previously you weren't sure which one you'd get. Now you'll get exactly what you choose, or you'll never get it if you choose battlecruiser, most likely, because there's always a huge backlog for that. So anyways, because this is the first video in the series, if you wouldn't mind pressing the like button. That's the only time I ask, is the first video, and the only purpose to that is to improve the search ratings for this first video. I mean, I'm assuming that that's what people want to find, and then if they don't like this video, they don't really care about video number 2, right? However, because Rule the Waves videos, I guess if you're searching for those at all, you'll probably find my channel. It's not that important. I guess I didn't really need to ask for that. Anyway, so thanks for watching. I hope you enjoy this series. It's going to be fun. We'll get some wonky ship designs in there at some point. Until the next episode, take care.